And we are joined by Kate Martin, who is running for mayor. So go ahead with a 2-minute introduction.
Okay, so I'd like to say that I'm preparing to take my professional skills in planning and design and business, my decades-long civic resume, and my 22 years of parenting done at City Hall. I invite everybody to join me on that journey. Over these years, the things I've been involved with civically have given me a very wide breadth of experiences and insights into everything from neighborhood planning, transportation, open space, recreation, watersheds, libraries, youth education. I did run for school board 2 years ago. I got over 70,000 votes, and that was very encouraging. Right now, I say to myself, with everything going on in Seattle, I joke that, where are we going and what are we doing in this handbasket? Because it feels like we're just counting heads and doing a lot of growth, but we're not really doing a good job of coupling that with comprehensive sustainability, especially for human habitat. And I also think that we're leaving our infrastructure with a lack of concurrency with the growth, so those are big struggles. My ideas are to change the policy direction, work with the city council to bring a different skew to the policies. So when my friends ask me why I'm not running for city council, I say it's because really the policy issues that I'm looking to influence are kind of from a larger order than just individual policies. I'm looking to put children ahead of adults. I'm looking to put maintenance ahead of neglect, to treat systems that need to be tweaked as opposed to just symptoms. I like to focus on diversity rather than monocultures. I'm running a very grassroots campaign. I invite you to learn more about me. I always tell people, invite me for coffee, invite me for a meet and greet, send me a little check, just support my little grassroots campaign. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have 5 paired questions that we're asking all candidates to answer to these. And I think we left off David Eugene, number 1.
What is your strategy for implementing, leveraging, and perhaps improving the incentive zoning program to create diverse neighborhoods and assure affordable housing?
Yeah. So I was listening to Peter Steinberg last night. Of course, Peter and I are both the planner designer people. So we've got the legislators, the lawyers, and then the planner designers. So we're in that camp. And I think that we haven't asked enough of the developers. On the other hand, I don't think we've asked enough of ourselves. I have a background in serving on neighborhood planning, update committee, and the original neighborhood planning. And I think that the way I look at it, when we plan parks, we do this little gap report that tells us where we've got the parks and where we don't. But when it comes to all the rest of the goodies that you really need to make a neighborhood, we don't have any gap reports at all. So I kind of picture it as, let's look at a neighborhood, let's see what their assets are, and let's look at what their deficits are, and then let's make a plan to fill those, especially when it comes to building job centers. Like, for instance, Ballard. We're talking about having to, run mass transit to downtown from Ballard because now we've got everybody sleeping in Ballard but working downtown. So it costs like $200 million a mile to get that light rail between Ballard and downtown. So I like to think of us just a little bit more comprehensively when it comes to the planning end of things. And I do think we need to ask more of the developers, but I definitely think we need to ask more of ourselves. I also did a tiny bit of research into public housing that was built after World War II. They did a lot of middle-class public housing, which I think is totally fascinating, and I think that we probably need to consider going in that direction because we're focusing a bit on lower income and trying to get those folks into housing. And we've got, of course, the top end very well covered, but we are really not providing very many places for middle-class people to live, especially middle-class families. So again, we know what that habitat looks like. That's the kind of comprehensive planning I think we need to do, not just leave it up to the developers to decide what's the best.
Great. Michael, number 2.
In your view, what is the city's role in assuring equal educational and achievement opportunity in Seattle Public Schools?
Yeah, so knowing that I'm going to be mayor and not superintendent, I'll answer that with a little bit of caveat there. I do think the biggest problem we have in Seattle with education is the disparity between how the kids that are coming from kind of fractured homes and poverty compared to the kids that are coming from well-supported homes. We're doing okay with the well-supported kids. We could be doing better. We're sort of torturing them all with the standardized testing. But I think that my idea to at least begin to level the playing field, first of all, the Families and Education Levy, that we are in control of at the city end. It's not floating the whole boat. It's very, very reactive. It's not focusing, doesn't actually have any focus. It's very scattershot. I'd like to see us give a real focus to that so we can hold ourselves accountable for what exactly it is we're doing with the Families and Education Levy. And then as mayor, with new programs, I'd like to bring the idea of a mentoring program that would be out in the community, almost omnipresent, where the kids from a really young age could come with their parents and work with mentors who would be trained and then have an army of volunteers working underneath them, not unlike what 826 Seattle is doing. And in fact, I asked 826 if they would pilot this program, and they agreed. So we'd have mentors where the kids could make their development plans, what they're interested in, hobby-wise, what they're interested in, education-wise, arts, career interests, and then have the whole city working in this program. I call it the Seattle Youth Boosters Association. So businesses would participate, the government would be in, the nonprofits, the family. So we'd all be working as boosters to help these kids navigate to adulthood successfully, rather than being in a situation where they can graduate from high school and just fall off a cliff, or not even make it through high school. So there's a few ideas there.
Then, maybe number 3.
Well, they never told me that reading was a requirement for this show. Voters passed the Parks and Green Spaces Levy in 2008. Yet we've experienced cutbacks in staffing and facilities since then. When the levy is up for renewal next year, how can it be construed or constructed to assure voters that their tax dollars will be allocated wisely?
Yes, the Parks Department. So I'm hearing noises about the next levy being a maintenance levy for parks. And on the one hand, that sounds kind of good because we don't have the money to maintain the parks currently. But on the other hand, it sounds really bad because I think that our departments need to operate in a way where we can handle the maintenance and the budgets that we have. Because we have a lot more parks that we're going to build if this is going to be a sustainable city in the future. So I see us perhaps following the lead of what New York City has done, where they're really leveraging volunteers to a much greater extent than we are. I also think that just in general, the parks, I think they aren't given enough money to do what they need to do, but when we pass these levies, one of the thoughts I've had is actually investing in endowments to try and have sustainable pools of money to support the parks. So I'd like to further investigate that, but I think endowments might be the way to be able to raise some money on an annual basis to take care of our parks.
That was number 4.
Sure.
There will likely be 2 types of election reform on the ballot this fall: district elections and public financing of campaigns. Do you support either or both of these, and why?
Yeah, so the public financing, yes. And I tell everybody they can start right now if you're actually interested in a grassroots campaign. I've got one going. And, sometimes people are kind of eliminating me or not even mentioning me because I don't have the war chest that some of the other players have. So it would really be great if you just started with that right now along with me and make this an election and not an auction. So I'm all for that. The districts, I'm on the fence on the districts. I'm interested in it, but I'm not exactly completely pleased with the way it's set up, and this is the reason. When I ran for school board, you go district in the primary, and then citywide in the general, and that's really what I would rather see. I really don't like the idea of the election being district. And so I may still vote for it, but I'm definitely on the fence right now, and that's the sticking point for me.
And Sarah, number 5.
What are your specific recommendations for selecting our new police chief and restoring public confidence in our police department?
Yeah, so having 2 children, the mistrust of the police department is no greater in the city than it is amongst the youth. And especially I have mixed race kids, and all of their friends are mixed race, and it's a terrible situation. So if we can start with the kids and get the kids to trust the police, then that's going to grow up through the system and be great. So in terms of a leader, what do we need? I think we need a dichotomous person, because we need them to be a very compassionate person and a person that can deal with diversity. We also need them to be an incredibly strong person, because what's happening is the union leadership and the command staff are sort of hierarchically out of place with the police chief. There's just he's the sort of figurehead chief, but these people are actually a leapfrog way over him in terms of the apparent power that's going on there. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see us hire or start the search after the election, and I'd like to see us bring in some candidates that actually have a track record of the kinds of successes that we're looking for here.
Great, so that's the end of our paired questions. Now we'll go to follow-up questions. These are 1-minute answers. People can ask whatever they want. I have one, and then John, and then David. So you've talked about why you're qualified and what you would do, but you haven't mentioned the incumbent yet. Why should the mayor not be reelected?
Yeah, so my approach to this, and it kind of comes from the way I've learned to behave at work, at home, and out in the community, and that is that I listen long and I make decisions collaboratively in groups. And the thing about comparing me to Mike, okay, just to go back a little step further, when I worked with Mike for 10 years on the Greenwood Community Council, my complaints of Mike were he could not remember anyone's name, he could not get to the meeting on time, and he could not come prepared. So those kind of habits to me are not the habits of an executive. They're really not business habits at all. So for me, I've been in business for 25 years, and my clients hire me over and over and over again over the decades. And it's because I listen and I produce what I say I'm going to produce when I'm going to produce it, and I have strong relationships with these people. So I expect to be able to scale up all of my business skills because business skills do scale. So I intend to bring the way I am. I'm a people person. I get to meetings sometime. I remember everybody's name, and I prepare.
Great, thank you. John, and then David.
You had mentioned subsidized housing for the middle class. How do you define middle class and middle class families?
Well, this is one way to define it. I think it's really interesting. I bought my house right over here in Finneywood, South Greenwood area, in 1985 when I was a waitress. And today, there's no chance of that. And so I'm a little bit sad about the idea that we've had an economic reset, but we really haven't had a reset in so many ways. It's just like everyone's getting excited again that the housing prices are beginning to skyrocket. And I think now that we've kind of commoditized housing and made it so that that's everybody's investment, ever since I guess we deleted the capital gains on it and made it so that was the big flipper's paradise. And so now who can buy? So I'd say middle class would be somebody who's working really hard, who has the values of hard work and honesty, and then they cannot find a place in our city to settle down their roots. And I worry about my own children, like where will they set up shop here? How will they do it as people in the middle class?
David.
You've mentioned your business skills, that you're a planner and a designer. What is the business?
So my business is Kate Martin Design.
Okay.
And my background is landscape architecture. I have a degree in landscape architecture from '79. And then when I moved here, I did large-scale planning of everything from planning a school district, school facilities to, big developments, small developments, condos, whatever, all of that. Then I later went into just private practice, and because I have always worked doing both floor plans and site plans, that's what I do. And luckily it's come back. Luckily there's work. Yeah.
How would you have handled the Department of Justice intervention with respect to the police?
Willingly. I would have handled it willingly. I think that it was, I'm not sure whether Mike responded the way he did over just defending the police force or whether it was a money issue, but we have huge problems. I just am finishing reading Breaking Rank. I don't know if any of you have read Norm Stamper's book, Breaking Rank, but Pete Holmes lent it to me. And it is truly something to get an inside view of the types of things going on at the police department. I did get a briefing from Pete, which I think he's briefed all of the mayoral candidates, but I feel that Pete, with all of his experience from the citizen side as an activist when he was working on accountability as an activist in the police department, and then his ability to move into that position as the city attorney, he's in a great position to help all of us understand what the problems are and what the problems have been and how to overcome them. And I'm super ready to see us do that. So no resistance at all to the DOJ.
Time for about 2 more questions.
Well, Kate, so we live in the same neck of the woods. We've had these conversations before, but we talked about infrastructure, but let's talk walkability and sidewalks.
Yeah. So from the Greenwood Streetscapes project, what I learned was a lot of sidewalks, or a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of blocks, I should say, are ready for sidewalks. Not every block is ready to help participate with sidewalks. So historically over Seattle, where all the sidewalks came from, is the cost of that was tacked onto your tax bill. And so all of the homeowners participated in paying for those, and I'd like to revive that, but kind of with a twist. What I'd like to do is, what we found out from that study was that the intersections are very expensive. And so what I'd like the city to do is do the intersections in order to leverage the blocks where the people are ready to connect the dots between the intersections. And I think it's the way we can really start getting it done. And that's in a way what they sort of have done up in your neck of the woods. So, you sometimes see the intersections. I'd like to revive those, but have it be private money with public money working together rather than the government for 54 years saying that there's somehow going to roll out sidewalks in the neighborhood.
Additional questions?
So aesthetically, the development that's going on in Seattle, what are your feelings about it aesthetically and livability of the big, huge apartment buildings that go up, they're right up against the sidewalk, there's not much greenery around. What is your opinion about those, and what would you do something different or not?
Yeah, so we set the table for that at DPD. I think that's what they asked for, and that's what they got, because that's what the underlying zoning is asking for. If you want a different build out, then you have to have a different underlying zoning, because what the deal is whether it's NC1, NC2, NC3, and that means neighborhood commercial, those are the mixed use buildings that we talk about. They each have different footprints that are allowed, and NC3 is sort of like big box, which is what you're seeing in these gigantic developments, and then these really nice little infill projects that you see on Capitol Hill, those are NC1. So we get what we have in our underlying planning, and so that's what we asked for, and that's what we got, and I don't think that's what we're happy with. So I think we have work to do.
Great, so we're about out of time. If you want to take 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Yeah, so I've been giving people a lowdown on my politics because I'm a composite of different influences, and so this is the way I've been describing myself. When it comes to kids, I'm a radical. When it comes to healthcare, I'm a socialist. When it comes to the environment, I'm a progressive. I'm liberal with civil rights and human rights, but with business, I'm pretty much conservative. I don't know any small business people that aren't, so I am. Yeah, and that's all. So I'm so happy to have had this interview, and I'm happy to look around here and know so many of you and see friendly faces. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you.